Lane, a butter.
Okay.
The first question is the letter from the Conservation Commission that's now a public record, is that available to abutters? Can we get a copy of that?
Sure.
Yeah.
That would be great. Can I keep that? Yep. Oh, thanks. The second thing is, does this board mandate that developers hold abutters meetings to discuss the project?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Well, calling abutters together in the neighborhood and to meet on the project. I mean, this is very typical with most developments. It's difficult to come here from time to time and understand entirely what is going on here. I understand the mandate of this board is to try and make sure that the project is done well, is done safe, et cetera, but it's very difficult for abutters to come here and understand exactly what we're talking about in this particular development. So the question is, do developers meet with abutters, or does this board require that they meet with abutters in a general meeting with abutters? I've never been in a project, in my experience, that didn't hold abutters meetings for matters of this sort.
I'm not aware of any way we could require.
It's nothing that you could require that they do that?
I don't think it's something that could be required by this board. Your opportunity to speak and ask questions is here, and then we also give you the opportunity to come on the site walk. The developer could absolutely do that on his own if he chose to do that. It's just not something
Okay.
that's in our requirements.
So the answer, it's not required.
Right.
So it's very difficult to understand what's
Right,
going on with the project entirely, really.
I'm not aware of any requirement either. I know that I've heard of a few developers having discussions with their neighbors, and I know of a couple that absolutely wouldn't want to talk to any of their neighbors.
Yeah,
But
well,
I
I've
don't
never
know.
been involved in a project, didn't have abutters meetings, I don't understand that.
So when there is a site walk scheduled, it is open to the public, and you're all welcome to come to that as well, and then speak to the
Well,
developer there if he's there and his engineer. And
Well, I understand that, but I don't understand how we're going to then look at plans on a site walk and have input into the plans and discuss with the developer his intentions with the project. And similar to my...
Let me interrupt
excuse
for a
me.
moment. At a site walk, you wouldn't be, unless it was after the site walk was adjourned by the town, and then the developer was willing to have a discussion with you, you wouldn't have discussions with the developer even on a site walk, because everything like it is now is, the procedure is questions are asked to the chair, and then if the applicant, I ask the applicant to respond to that. If there's a question that he can actually respond to, then we occasionally do that at a site walk, but you'll ask the chair. It has to be very uniform, or the meeting would take days on end,
Sure.
and we have a limited time frame in which to go look at a site. We're there usually to hear some questions or statements from the abutters. We allow that, but we can't require that a developer or a landowner talk to you. I mean, that's not really.
So the site
know how we
walk
would
that
do
you're
that.
talking about is no different than a jury view in a case, no different.
I'm not sure what you mean by that, but
I think some of you do. It's just you go out and look at a site with a jury. You don't talk to anybody, you just look at the site. The other thing that I do support is the open space concept, for sure. I mean, that's the new regulation in Pelham. I know it's not a requirement for every project, but it certainly makes sense in this one, it seems to me, from what little we know of the project right now.
again, that's a subjective thing. A planning board has to look at everything that we have been given to look at.
Yeah.
And then we ask questions and we make suggestions to the applicant. It's up to the applicant to decide which way they're going to ultimately do their development. And if they choose an open space, then they have to go by the open space standards. If they choose conventional, then they have to go by those standards, and we have to do like what we did earlier was,
Right.
first and foremost is safety. That's our number one
Right.
thing, and then we make sure that they're meeting zoning, and then we also have regulations on top of the zoning, so.
And the last thing I would say is I do share Mr. Bergeron's concern about the traffic issues in that area and the chairman's concern as well. It is very concerning. When we come out of Cooper Lane, you got to be very, very careful coming out on that hill. You can't see left at all.
Right.
And it's hard to see right, and I will tell you, cars fly up over that hill. They really do. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else like to come forward?
How do you do? My name's David Shapolsky. I live at 20 Cooper Lane. So a few points that I'd like to bring up. So the first point being on Young's Crossing, as Mr. Bergeron was stating, it's dangerous. There's no point in putting a driveway there. It's pointless. As Mr. Bergeron said, mail carriers, truck drivers, anything. I mean, snow plowing the driveway in the winter, I mean, it's pointless to put a driveway there. If a snowplow were to plow that driveway, he's going to get whacked by a car. No, I mean, any time of year, no matter what the weather, there's always one person that's flying up that hill. And you can't see from Cooper, you can't see from anywhere. So I personally think that putting a driveway there is dangerous for everybody in any point of view. I just don't think, if you really want to put a house there, or the duplex, I think try to put it somewhere else, or don't do it at all, because, I mean, I'm not against building houses. I mean, that's how this country was made, by buildings, and people living, and, you know, but I think that there could be a better way to put a driveway there, because I think it's pointless putting it there, and it's going to be hell. So, my second point is, so I'm for the open space. I think conventional, like I said, I'm not against building houses or anything. I mean, you know, you got to build a house to live. But I think with the open space, it'd be better because behind us, we have a weird lot, and it kind of comes over behind, I can't see, and I don't remember what lots they were, but it goes to the side and next to the Yeamans over here. So my concern is, there's a culvert that comes from Cooper Lane.
You on 20 Cooper Lane?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. There's a culvert that comes down about halfway from 20 Cooper and the Yeamans at 18 Cooper. There's a culvert that goes all the way down, and it goes all the way through, and it goes down all the way into the woods, almost towards near Salem over there, and that stream goes all the way to Harris Pond. And obviously, drainage is mandatory for any neighborhood, anything. So my concern is, if it were to be the conventional plan, I have a feeling that people would, you know, put stuff in their backyards and stuff, and they'd fool around with the drainage, you know, and then that's going to cost the town to fix the drainage. And like I said, if it backs up, the whole street's going to flood, and, you know, it's going to get into people's houses. So I just think that that's one concern.
Is it uphill or downhill from your backyard into this?
I'm sorry, what'd you say? I couldn't.
From your backyard, is it uphill or downhill into the development?
Downhill.
It's downhill into
Yeah,
the development?
it's right down.
Straight down? Okay.
Yeah. And behind our house, from the rock wall, like, you even go just a little bit, it drops off. I mean, there's probably in some spots, you know, it can be 5 feet deep, you know, but I mean, if it's eroded that much over the years, it's going to do it again. So these houses may last 20 years and then fall apart, you know. And then another concern is, like I said, the stream goes back there, and when the drainage runs down, it's going to go through into behind where our house is, behind the rock wall, which is always wet any time of year. Go back there any time. Go in the middle of August when it's completely dry. There'll still be water there. You know,